Genetically modified organisms, GMOs, have been controversial since their debut. GMOs, despite their current popularity among social media experts, are a significant issue. They affect everyone. In the U.S., corn is the most produced crop. Corn production exceeded all other crops in 2014 at 361 million tons. Corn is used to manufacture several items. In addition to food, maize derivatives are found in Coke, milk, toothpaste, aspirin, and varnish. GMOs are prevalent in the U.S., as 85% of corn is genetically modified and is the most common animal feed. This week on Behind the Business, we'll explore Monsanto, the world's largest seed corporation, which started it all. History. John Francis Queeny created Monsanto in 1901 as a chemical firm. Queeny was in his 40s and had a tough start. His family was homeless after the 1871 Great Chicago Fire when he was 12. He stopped his studies to work full-time as an office boy at a wholesale pharmaceutical company. Through hard effort and determination, John rose in the pharmaceutical sector and relocated to St. Louis in 1891 as a representative of the Meyer Brothers Drug Company, the largest drug distributor at the time. After marrying Olga Monsanto 5 years later, John named his business after her in 1901. John founded Monsanto to create saccharin, a sugar substitute with no nutritional benefit and 300 times sweeter than table sugar. Saccharin, a popular sugar substitute today, was originally synthesized in 1879, but was unknown in the U.S. in the 1900s. Germany had a near monopoly on production, whereas the U.S. had no manufacturer. John's business, the first U.S. saccharin maker, found success in the lucrative American market. One of his initial clients was Coca-Cola, which still utilizes saccharin in Diet Coke. In 1905, John brought vanillin and coumarin to Monsanto's repertoire, previously produced solely by Germany. Monsanto struggled to make a profit in its first decade because of German undercutting. In 1917, the U.S. declared war on Germany, halting chemical imports and creating a market gap that Monsanto eagerly filled. Revenue increased from $81,000 in 1913 to $905,000 in 1919, making Monsanto a major U.S. chemical company. In 1919, Monsanto made its first international acquisition, acquiring a Welsh chemical manufacturer that produced aspirin and rubber catalyzers. This was Monsanto's first major acquisition, but surely not the last. Monsanto introduced industrial chemicals, including polychlorinated biphenyl, PCB, in the 1920s. There are 209 molecular configurations of PCBs, all of which are highly hazardous. These carcinogens and contaminants are resistant to acids and heat and require 200 days of direct sunshine to degrade. Don't believe this is some strange, rarely used chemical. Before the 1970s, PCBs were often utilized as coolants in electrical devices like power transformers and capacitors. Transformers with PCB warning labels are likely to be found in neglected cities in your state. For nearly 50 years, Monsanto was the sole U.S. producer of PCBs until Congress banned them in 1979. According to leaked documents from 2002, Monsanto was aware of the toxicity of PCBs decades before their ban. Monsanto first circumvented environmental rules in 1926 by incorporating a town named Monsanto in Illinois. In the past, local governments enforced environmental laws, and Monsanto found the town's restrictions permissive enough to build its largest PCB factory there. That town is now Sauget and has 159 inhabitants. One of the early illustrations of Monsanto's severe-for-profit mentality is the PCB case, now a viral meme. Unfortunately, Monsanto's negative reputation is well-deserved, as we will discuss later. Developments Monsanto became the top chemical supplier to the U.S. military by 1939 when the Second World War began. Styrene, a chemical essential for synthetic rubber manufacture, was their most valuable product at the time. Interestingly, Monsanto contributed heavily to the Manhattan Project. They contributed to the creation of the polonium-based initiators used in the 2 atomic bombs fired on Japan. Post-war, Monsanto entered agriculture by creating insecticides. First produced in 1944, dichloro-diphenyl trichloroethane, DDT, was outlawed within 30 years due to its high toxicity. During Operation Ranch Hand of the Vietnam War, the U.S. military employed Monsanto's herbicide, Agent Orange, as a defoliant. While Agent Orange effectively destroyed Viet Cong crops, its toxicity resulted in contamination of over 3 million people and caused 500,000 Vietnamese children to be born with abnormalities. LED light development by Monsanto accelerated in the early 1970s. Monsanto was the first to mass-produce LEDs, reducing their price from $200 to under 10 cents each. A few years later, the U.S. government penalized Monsanto for their reckless use of dangerous chemicals. Monsanto suffered significant income losses due to PCB and pesticide prohibitions, not to mention the hundreds of millions of dollars in class action litigation. Monsanto management shifted their focus from pesticide manufacture to agricultural biotechnology during this time of turmoil. Biotechnology was a nascent field when this transformation took place in the early 1980s. Monsanto's early entry offered its extensive R&D section an advantage. Monsanto scientists, led by Robert Fraley, pioneered genetically modifying plants in 1983. This breakthrough started the GMO era in agriculture. Genetically modified crops are not inherently harmful, despite what some Twitter experts may claim. The unfavorable impression of GMOs stems from experiences where greed has led to the overdevelopment of good things, resulting in harmful outcomes. GMO crops demonstrate this. Genetically modifying crops can be done without harming human health. Some methods include decreasing the seed-to-seed cycle or increasing the size of the fruit or vegetable. However, Monsanto took GMO crops to unprecedented heights to increase production. In the early 1980s, Monsanto faced lawsuits and product bans. However, the discovery of glyphosate, a powerful herbicide, saved the company from bankruptcy. Monsanto's herbicide, Roundup, became the most popular in the U.S. within 2 decades. Success is due to Monsanto's GMO crop development. In the past, farmers had to put seeds far apart. Without sufficient area to work their fields, weeds would grow and harm their harvests. The development of Roundup-resistant GMO crops by Monsanto opened up new agricultural possibilities. Farmers may now plant crops closer together without hurting them by dumping loads of Roundup directly onto them. Farmers swiftly adopted Monsanto's GMO solution due to the significant boost in crop output and cost reduction from reduced tilling. Until 2000, Monsanto was the sole producer of glyphosate due to its patents. It was during this time that the company grew into a global giant. Since Roundup, Monsanto has invested billions in developing insecticides and crops. Since investing $1.5 billion in R&D last year, the results have been more than satisfactory. 2 years ago, Monsanto's GMO seeds covered 80% of the U.S.'s maize land. Today, the number is even greater. Monsanto's success in the seed industry stems from its innovative utilization of patents. Farmers that sow Monsanto's GMO seeds must follow tight guidelines for their use. They are prohibited from replanting, selling, or sharing these seeds, assuring Monsanto's revenue stability and growth. Solucia. The complex rules may hold farmers liable even if the wind carries Monsanto's seeds from a neighbor's land. In 1997, Monsanto split off its chemical division as Solucia to complete its metamorphosis into an agricultural giant. Monsanto attempted a new start, claiming to be a new corporation with the same name as its polluting ancestor on their website. This was a facade, as the new Monsanto executives were the same as those who had governed the old corporation for decades. They attempted to distance themselves from Monsanto's morally dubious background with Solucia. Solutia took over the chemical industry and most of the litigation related to Monsanto's PCBs and other industrial pollutants. 6 years later, Solutia filed for bankruptcy and was acquired by Eastman Chemical Company. The new Monsanto struggles to overcome its negative reputation, yet continues to expand globally. Today, it's bigger than ever, earning $15 billion last year. About half of the revenue came from Roundup pesticide sales and GMO crops resistant to it. Unfortunately, Monsanto's products are so established in modern agriculture that they cannot be eliminated despite boycotts and arguments. Many believe Monsanto will remain, but probably they will soon cease to be an autonomous firm. Bayer Pharmaceuticals, which we covered in a video, has been pursuing an acquisition of Monsanto for 4 months. Monsanto recently accepted a $66 billion all-cash offer, pending regulatory approval. However, in the past 14 months, 6 major industry mergers have occurred, and analysts predict a 50% chance of the Bayer-Monsanto merger. Even if the merger fails, a Monsanto-free future is unlikely. While investing in a corporation that controls the world's food supply may make sense, it may be wiser to sacrifice earnings to improve the planet. Despite the dubious subject, I hope you enjoyed the video. It was hard to make this video. Business Casual strives for impartiality when covering corporations, but with a company like Monsanto, which is often viewed as a tyrant, it can be challenging to maintain neutrality. However, learning how they became a giant was fascinating. To view a different video, click the top right corner to view Boeing's history from the Wright brothers to the second space race. View the whole Behind the Business series by clicking on the playlist in the bottom right corner. To subscribe to our channel, click in the middle right corner.